And so, and that's in Philadelphia. So he set up
and he was
an
in
appointment
Lancaster.
for me. And I was in Lancaster. And so I didn't have any idea. I think I'd been to Philly once in my life, And so I decided, I went to bed the night before, and I had I had the directions from the railroad station to where they were, which was actually pretty close. And I was going to drive down to the railroad station. I had the train all figured out which one I was going to take. And I ended up going to bed, and I couldn't get to sleep. It's one of those things where, it's a big change in your life, and I just could not get to sleep. And then I finally got to sleep about the time I should be getting up.
Yeah.
And I slept for an hour, and that gave me an hour late already. Now I got up and ran down, got in the car, drove the car as fast as I could over to the train station. The train was pulling out just as I pulled in.
Mm-hmm.
So now what do? I have to drive to Philadelphia. And I drove to Philadelphia, and I got in there, and by this time I'm tired from the driving and no sleep,
Right.
And I got there.
You didn't really know how to get where you were
And I
going.
didn't know where, I stopped at a gas station, and they got me halfway there, and then I stopped again, and I got the rest of the way there. I really don't even remember quite how that happened. And so I pulled in, and I was basically on time, maybe a couple of minutes late. And he said, well, okay, now you have to take the two tests first. You take arithmetic test and math test and an IQ / vocabulary test.
Mm-hmm.
So they give you the IQ / vocabulary test first, and the problem solving. Actually, it's a problem solving test too. And so you take that, and then they come in and they give you the math test. Well, I get about 2/3 of the way through the math test, and I'm fussing with this one problem, and the next thing I know, I'm being awakened by him asking me if I was all right.
He slammed the door.
He opened the door, and he said, and that was enough. I think that got me going. And he said, "Are you okay? You doing okay?" I think he said, "Are you doing okay?" And he knew damn well I was sound asleep. And I said, "Oh yeah, I'm fine," And I went back and I completed the darn thing, And but I did well enough on it that right then and there he asked me if he said, you qualified for OCS, and go at such and such a date probably, but I'll have to enter it to the powers that be up in Washington. And he said, but he said your grades were good enough that you might think about aviation, And so I said, aviation? I never had even thought of aviation. Never even crossed my mind. And I said,
You want to say you've never been on a plane?
Yeah.
well, yeah, I'd never been on an aircraft in my
Wow.
life. Yeah, I know that sounds like wow now. In those days, it wasn't such a wow.
It wasn't that unusual.
there weren't.
Yeah.
I mean, I was more than one. I had a lot of friends. But anyway, I said, okay. I said, I asked a few questions. I said, well, because I knew that the OCS was 3 years plus training. Training was 4 months, so that was 3 years, 4 months. And so I said, how long will I be in for aviation? And he says, well, it's 3.5 years plus training. I'm thinking, well, it's only 6 months more. And then it occurs to me, training might be a bit, my mother didn't
Raise a fool.
raise a pure idiot, And I thought, gosh, I wonder how long that is. So I asked him, I said, how long is training? He says, well, it took me 20 months, but most of the people get through in 18. And I'm thinking, 18 months and 3.5. That's 5 years, you know. And you're 21 years old, and you're thinking, 5 years, that's the rest of my life. And I thought, there's no way in hell I'm going to do that. You know, 5 years? No, I don't think so. Well, if you change your mind, when you go to OCS, you can, after you finish OCS, you can go to aviation from there. I said, okay. So I started thinking about it, and I said, you know, I don't know anyone who's a pilot. I don't know anything about it, but I think it'd be a cool thing to do. I think it'd be something I'd really enjoy, and probably, you know, I might do well in. You know, I don't know why I thought that. Anyway.
What are you going to do for the next?
Right, yeah.
And what am I going to do for that extra year and a half?
Yeah.
Seriously, I mean, what? Sell insurance? You know, I mean, wouldn't I rather fly an aircraft? Yeah, I think I would. So anyway, I went to, and you probably heard this part of it. I went to OCS. Did, yeah. We first day, you know, you go and you get your hair cut, and you go down and you get all your stuff, and you know, I mean, it's just like you see the guys in prison when they go and they get their stuff and then they get shuffled in it. Yeah, well, you get all your stuff. You know, your
Are you in your tidy
your uniform, and no, you're in what you have. But we all pull into the auditorium, and there are 800 of us, you know, seated. No, I take that back. It was 400 of us seated, and it was 800 there. But there was another class that was 2 weeks ahead of us. So anyway, the lieutenant commander got up after we all got seated, and he says, "Okay, the first thing we have to tell you is how many of you heard you could go to aviation from here? Because I'm here to tell you can't. You will not be able to do it. Because you have signed up for the Surface Navy."
I think that he actually asked.
And he said, he asked us to raise our hands, and about almost half of us raised our. It probably was a few more than half raised our hands, and he said, "That I'm here to tell you can't do it." And so he says, "I want everyone who told you that, you know, any recruiter that told you that. I want his name, where he works, and you come up after this presentation, and we'll have 3 people down here taking names." And boy, I was the first